Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're going to get started in just a minute. Let's just let the people here on X know that we're here and we're ready. Okay, there we go. Okay, everybody. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. My name is Bilal Abdul Kareem, and this is the BAK show. And we are here to discuss the issues which are important to you. Of course, I am your host, Bilal Abdul Kareem, and we are broadcasting live on X. There you are. And we're also broadcasting on YouTube. And we want to let everybody know that on this show, we request that you bring your questions, your comments, and or concerns. Of course, we want the questions to be pertaining to the political issues surrounding the Muslim Ummah at large. Okay, before we get started, I just want to let everybody know about our crowdfunding page, just so that it's easy for everybody. It would be great if you could visit it, and that's at medina.com/voices of truth. For those brothers and sisters who are on X, who it's not displayed at the bottom of the screen, that's Medina with an H, that's MADINAH.com/voices of truth. Please take a look at our crowdfunding page. We love for you to participate and to help us out. We've got major stuff that we're working on, brothers and sisters, and we need your help. Okay, now that we have said that, the first thing I want to talk about here today is the flotilla. The flotilla, which has taken on ships. There are more than 50 ships, 44 different nationalities, and they are en route to Gaza. Now, why is this so significant? Now, Greta Thunberg, a few months ago, she boarded a ship. It was intercepted by Israeli authorities. They were arrested, and then they were basically diplomatically sent back to their home countries, the people who were on the ship, give or take a bit of time, depending on who it was. Okay, why is this different? Well, the first issue is that that was one ship. This is more than 50. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we have to look at this from an Israeli standpoint. What options are available to them? Well, they could let the ship go through, but that's not a good option if you're looking at it from an Israeli standpoint. Because what do you think these people are going to find once they actually get to Gaza? They're going to find that it's probably much worse than the pictures are saying. That's not good for Netanyahu. That's bad for Netanyahu. Okay, so that's one issue. So they could let the ships through and just say, okay, you guys want to go ahead. That's an option. Another option is to intercept the boats, which could lead to a confrontation wherein you have Spanish and Greek and Italian ships. Now there's a Spanish warship that is accompanying them because there are Spanish citizens on the boat. But the Greeks, they are giving safe escort through Greek waters and Greek territory, but that's about as far as they're going to go. The Italians begrudgingly put some escorts there. Now, I say begrudgingly because the prime minister didn't want to do it. She's not with it. She's very pro-Trump. So you can't be pro-Trump and pro-Palestinian at the same time. But also at the same time, her streets are full of Italians who are demanding that they do something. And with elections coming up soon, you got to keep one thing in mind. Trump doesn't vote in Italian elections. So she was forced to be able to field something to protect the members of the flotilla. Okay, so what is the next option? The Israelis could risk a military confrontation with either the Greeks and or the Italians and or the Spanish. That doesn't seem like a good option either, because now you've got a problem with European capitals. Their citizens might have been injured or might have been killed, and that's easy to do when the ships are floating on water. People drown, and that's going to create another issue. Now, we can't assume, you see, you have to go back to the Greta Thunberg flotilla. When she went and she was arrested and their flotilla was not allowed to go through, that was to act as a deterrent. They wanted to send a message, meaning Israel, that look, y'all can send your ships, y'all can collect the money that you want, it ain't coming through, so don't even try it. And so they stopped the ship, boarded it, arrested her, and then sent them packing. Okay, cool. But it didn't work, because that was one ship, and now they're 50. So what happens if they decide to impound all 50 vessels and arrest these people? You've got people from, you've got members of parliament from different capitals. You've got actors and people who are known people. If it didn't work with Greta Thunberg, I don't know, they could be sparking a much bigger response. Because if it went from one ship with Thunberg to now it's 50 ships, what's it going to be next? So that's another option, which doesn't look very good either. So when you look at it from the standpoint of the Israelis, brothers and sisters, it doesn't look good. And that's wonderful, because this is the biggest threat that the Israelis are facing. Why? Because they can't control it by controlling the capitals around the world. The Egyptians have yet to even approve of the boats going from Egypt to join the flotilla. You see, that's what happens when Israel can control capitals. They control the Sisis, they control the Starmers, they control the heads of state. But the heads of state don't always have control over the people. And that's why I say that this is the biggest threat to Israel and their genocide in Gaza. Because they're going to have to figure out, and pretty quick. We had a conversation with Sister Yvonne Ridley, who's on the Omar Mukhtar boat, and she said that they should be in Gaza in about 3 days. That was yesterday. That means that there are 2 days left. We're going to have to follow this thing up and see where it goes. Please leave your comments if you think that Israel has another option other than that. Now, Israel did say, we put forward a proposal. And we said, look, you can dock your ship at any neighboring country, unload your cargo, and we'll deliver it to the Palestinians. Oh, how cool is that? And then to top it off, the Italian Prime Minister, she gets up and she says that, yeah, you can unload your cargo at such and such place, and we, the Italian government, will make sure it gets to the Gazans within hours. Come on, girl. Come on, girl. Yo, what's up? If that was the case, then there would be no need for the flotilla to even be there. That's why I say they're clutching at straws. They're desperate. So watch out. All right, let's take a look and see what your questions, comments, and or concerns are. We've got Sim here who says, Assalamu alaikum akhi, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good to have you, man. Okay, next we've got Tarix _X. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, brother. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What do you think, who was the best group in Syria and the most right group? I think it was Huras ad-Din. I really am not in a position to answer that. And no, I'm not going to say I'm not in a position to answer it. I think I won't answer it, and I'm going to tell you why. There were many groups here fighting in Syria. A lot of groups that didn't get a lot of notoriety, in the media, religious Islamic groups and such like that. If I were to single out a group or two, that would basically mean to the exclusion of the other groups, and I just don't think that that's fair. But suffice it to say that there were a lot of groups that were fighting, and some of those members, or a lot of those members, have been absorbed by the new government, so their groups no longer exist. But the ideals that formed some of those Islamic groups are still there, and they're just not under the banner of this name or that name and so on and so forth. But they're still there. So, it's kind of like saying, who's the greatest pitcher of all time? I don't know. I can mention a lot of them, but it would be to the exclusion of the others. So, I think I'll have to leave it at that. Okay, we've got Mustafa Sheikh who says, Akhi, I love you for the sake of God, and I love you for the sake of the one whom you love me for. And he continues, he says, and have been following you since the Face the Truth days. Wow. Daniel Hakika Joe is an enemy of Syria. He whitewashes Iranian crimes. You must publicly disavow him. To be honest with you, I don't really know Daniel Hakika Joe that well. I just don't follow his stuff that much. I spoke to him or exchanged messages with him. This must be about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was only like 2 or 3 exchanges. So I just don't really follow his stuff that much. I get such mixed reviews regarding him and the things that he says and involves himself in. But on the real to real, I don't really know what Daniel Hakika Jew is doing. If I get the time, I could probably look through it. But I see him doing debates and stuff like that. But the debates are long, and I just don't have the time to sit for an hour or two to watch it and stuff and all. There's a whole world full of stuff going on here, and I just don't get the time to do it. I just don't. So I hope nobody will call me to account for not denouncing him, because I'm just not that familiar with his stuff. Okay, next. Ahmed says, Assalamu alaikum, Akhi Bilal. Alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Trump claims to have an imminent ceasefire deal in the next couple of days. Do you think an unbiased ceasefire that Palestinians can agree to is imminent? Every deal is just biased to Israel. Well, Trump says a lot of things. This cat, he'll say anything from one day to the next. He was saying just a few days ago, I think there's going to be a big announcement regarding Syria. That was like Thursday. So I woke up Friday, Saturday, Sunday, nothing. So you can't get gassed up. I don't know how many times he said, and there's going to be a big announcement regarding Gaza. I think we have a deal. I think we're close to a deal. Okay, well, why do you keep jumping up saying stuff like that and all? I don't take him seriously. When there's something on the table, that's when we'll talk. Until that time, then no. Because for all we know, it could be just another trick to get the Hamas members all together again and to pull off another attack, which the U.S. was a part of, So don't believe this stuff. We found out about it late. Were they doing it? Really? I didn't know. Did they call you? They didn't call me. Come on. That is just total garbage. That is just so stupid. That's like, the police arresting a suspect who may have robbed a bank. And then he comes and says, I was walking down the street. There's a big gust of wind. I didn't see what was going on and all. And then all of a sudden, I almost got hit in the head with this bag of money. and all. But fortunately for me, I was able to carry it. And I had just asked my Lord to send me some money. And this was the money. And when the police came, they came to take the money that God sent to me. So I ran. What kind of story is that? Dude, Trump, what are you talking about? And that's the reality. That's how serious I think we should take Trump's statements. And he says, every deal is just biased to Israel. Now, why are we saying that it's just biased to Israel? That's because the Arab countries do not support the Palestinians. I'm going to say that again. The Arab countries do not support the Palestinians. I'm going to say that again. The Arab countries do not support the Palestinians. Because if they were supporting the Palestinians, then the Palestinians would have leverage. If just the UAE and or the Qataris and or Saudi Arabia would just say, look, our 3-point-some trillion dollar investment that we pledged to make earlier this year to Donald Trump, that he trumpeted, if we don't get a satisfactory offer, it's off the table. They got the leverage to do it, but they won't. Why? Because they don't want Hamas to succeed. They don't want the Palestinians to have that leverage. Don't be fooled, brothers and sisters. Let me ask you guys a question. Look, let me just put this out there and all. Remember how we always hear about the Houthis and they send missiles or drones and such like that to Israel. Most of them get shot down over Jordanian or Saudi airspace. Isn't that right? That's right. That's real. Why? Because they say it violates our sovereignty and we just can't have missiles and such flying over our airspace. It might malfunction and harm one of our citizens. That's what they said, right? Okay. Question. The Israelis send missiles, drones, and fighter jets to Yemen. Did you hear of any of them being shot down? No. I mean, couldn't one of the missiles malfunction and land on Saudi Arabia? It could. Couldn't it land on Riyadh? It could. Couldn't it land on Amman, Jordan? It could. Why don't they shoot them down? It only goes one way. Because, like the anti-aircraft thing is just pointing that direction. The other way it doesn't work as good. That's the reality here. So don't be fooled, brothers and sisters, by this Arab rhetoric about, people are dying in Gaza and stuff like that. The leaders either A, don't care, or B, don't care enough to act, which is, for the sake of the Palestinians, the equivalent of not caring. That's the reality, brothers and sisters. You can't frame it any other way. None of those countries shoot down any of the Israeli ordnance that's on its way to Yemen, but they shoot it down if it's going back. That's the reality. Allah knows best. Abdul Rafi says, what's your take on the recent Saudi-Pakistan defense agreement? Joke. I'm going to tell you why it's a joke. Because Shahbaz Sharif got up at the United Nations. Now, I got to tell you something here. I saw what he said. And I'm going to first let me tell you what he said. He said that Pakistan voted nominated U.S. President Donald Trump to win the Nobel Peace Prize Award because he loves peace. Now, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear that is Shahbaz Sharif must be getting high. You know what I'm saying? They must have been in one of those UN rooms and all, and you just kind of walk by and you smell something and you say, hey man, what's going on in there? and it just says Pakistan on the door, and it says, I mean, don't walk in. Might be one of the security guards get punched in the face or something. That's what you got to start thinking. But then you say, nah, you look at his eyes, and he doesn't look like he's high. But then you got to start thinking the other things. Wait a minute, y'all just signed this defense pact agreement, you and Saudi. So many people are thinking it's because so that we can get together and we can, if Israel decided to attack Saudi Arabia and Pakistan is nuclear armed, they can come to the rescue, or vice versa, or whatever. Although what the Saudis are going to do, maybe throw their wallets at them, I'm sure. I have no idea. But the point is that you had some people thinking that this was going to actually act as a deterrent. Joke. Why is it a joke? Because after all that Israel has done with American tacit support, I mean, at the end of the day, Israel couldn't do what they're doing unless they have American arms, unless they have American political cover, unless they have American cash in which they receive to the tune of billions of dollars, and a new package is being prepared to send to Israel as well, even as we speak in Washington. So I'm saying to you is that how did you vote for him to be to win the Nobel Peace Prize? That means you don't recognize anything that's going on in Gaza. That this guy, Shahbaz Sharif, is totally, he's the prime minister of Pakistan, he's totally, I wouldn't say a total sellout, because even when you're a total sellout, you don't always want everybody to know. You didn't have to get up in the UN and tell everybody that and make the people look at you and start going, I mean, why would you do that? That's like going out of the house with purple hair and then dyeing your beard red. People are going to say, hey, man, you ain't have to do that. And Allah knows best. All right. Next up, we got Nick. All right, Nick, what you got? Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother, is there any movement at all that's outside of the government to have a check on the government? It seems like there's no counterbalance to deter another Essence scenario. No. At this juncture, I gotta tell you, I don't see any opposition. And what do I mean by opposition? Opposition doesn't always mean that guns and people are going to start shooting other people if they don't get what they want. That's not what opposition always means. It can mean that, but that's not really what we're talking about here. I think opposition is extremely healthy for a country. A country without opposition is nothing more than a dictatorship. Because when you have humans, you have some that are not going to agree with you. And if you have everybody that's on the same page and everybody's doing this or tapping on a tambourine or something along those lines, then brothers and sisters, you got another dictatorship happening. And I'm worried, y'all. I'm not going to lie. I'm worried. We're seeing all kinds of carrying out military operations with the Americans. We have no troops to protect our borders in the southern part of the country with Israel. So many people have said, and I'm going to come out, I'm going to say this, and I know some people are not going to like this, but I was studying something of the Battle of Ain Jalut, which was the battle wherein the Mamluk, these are ex-slave warriors. You had Bepas and Kutus, and they were in Egypt. And the Mongols were the attacking, marauding army. They just sacked Baghdad to the extent where they said that 200,000 people were slaughtered in the streets. That's a lot when you ain't got no weapon of mass destruction. That's a lot for anything. But in addition to that, you got to understand what the Mongols were doing at that time. They were ransacking the Muslim lands. And the Muslim lands were surrendering or signing treaties of neutrality and such like that. The level of fear of this army coming for you was immense, much more than the Israelis, much more. Because when they showed up and they would send you messages and telling you, we're going to slaughter your old people and your children together in the streets. And they would do it just that. Okay. So I'm saying is that this marauding army was so feared, but the Muslims in Egypt, under the leadership of the Mamluk, they fought them and they drove them back. They may have saved the Ummah of Islam. So I'm saying here, you can't have southern Syria not protected. You can't have Israeli helicopters pulling off kill missions inside of your territory and you don't fire a shot. You can't have it. It's better, and I'm going to say this, and I'd like to know what you people think in the comments. It's better to fight and to lose big than to lose everything and to become subjugated. Anybody want to go back to the days of Bashar al-Assad? That might be where we're heading here, because Netanyahu just might take over this whole thing. Just putting it out there, brothers and sisters. So I think we need to get our act together. Next. Faisal says, Salam, brother Bilal. Walaikum salam. Hope you're keeping well. Is Turkey going to join the flotilla, or will Erdogan continue to be a CIA agent? I don't think that Erdogan is a CIA agent, but I think you got to understand that I don't always know the religious commitment of some of these leaders. That doesn't mean that they're kuffar. I'm not saying whether they are or they aren't. That's not the topic. But what I'm saying is that, you know, when you've got your family in your house, and there are people who keep coming to your door saying, give us money, give us clothes, give us this, give us that, and you give it to them to keep them from attacking your family and taking your children or taking your wife or something like that. It's a big decision to figure out whether you should fight or not. I believe that as practicing Muslims, we ain't got a choice. We ain't got a choice. This nation state thing and everything, the Prophet said, some didn't mention nothing about that. There's an obligation to fight to protect your Muslim brothers and sisters, whether you like it or not. It ain't got nothing to do with it. Especially when you have the ability to do so. So, surrounding Erdogan, I would love for the Turks, who I think are pretty amazing people as a people. I believe that if they entered this fray, are the Turkish people going to suffer some difficulties? Yeah, they are. But I'm telling you, I don't know. Maybe call me one of those romantics, but I think that the Turks, they have the keys. They invested in their military. They have political clout. They have all kinds of stuff that if they did enter into the fray, and what I mean enter into the fray, start bombing Tel Aviv? No. But make it clear militarily that Israel's not going to bomb Syria anymore. Because bombing Syria is like bombing Turkey. That's what I think would be a game changer. Israel's under a lot of pressure. And I think that if Erdogan did that, Allah would help him. Next, Imran Khan says, Salam, Brother Bilal. Walaikum salam wa barakatuh. What are your thoughts on Ahmed al-Shara's speech at the UN? Imran from London, UK. All right. I watched his speech and from the United Nations. I'm not going to say it was a waste of time because as a journalist, I have to watch these things. But what did I expect he was going to say? What was he going to say? Oh, it's a new day in Syria. The Israelis have got to respect our territory. We would like for the sanctions to be lifted. That's what I expected he was going to say. I didn't have to watch a speech for that. And the reason why you find that I'm like kind of indifferent is because nobody cares. There ain't nobody in that auditorium, and which weren't a lot of people, which I thought was a slap in the face to him by some of those new people who are considered his friends and all. On the real to real, nobody cares what your wants and your needs are. Y'all think anybody cares? No. Did they need his speech? Did Congress need his speech to know that they need the sanctions lifted? No. Did they need his speech in Tel Aviv to know that they didn't want them encroaching on Syrian territory? No. You think it was like in Tel Aviv, they said, oh, wait a minute, Ahmed al-Shara's on TV, turn it up. And then they're sitting there and they're watching. And everything said, oh, he said he doesn't want us over there anymore. How come he didn't say so before? Is that what y'all think? No. So he went there. I think the Syrian people had a sense of pride. Okay, we're back on the world stage, and we've got a new president. It's the dawn of a new era, and so on and so forth. I didn't feel like that. What I felt was that it was the world stage who watched Bashar al-Assad slaughter 1 million people and didn't do anything. It was the world stage that's watching the genocide which is taking place in Gaza and doesn't do anything. It's the world stage who's watching a famine go on in Gaza and doesn't do anything. It's the world stage who sits there and only moves when it's within their national interest, and Gaza just ain't in their national interest. And that's why they're not moving. So you might call me one of those hardline jihadists or something like that. You can say what you want. But at the end of the day, these are the same people who watched you burn away in the sand. What do you expect they're going to do? You think they're going to change their tune because you made a speech there? They're not changing their tune. They don't care about your speech. It was the Americans that even had to okay for him to come to America to do the speech in the first place. Now, if they thought that he was going to show up there and then say, look, guys, look, let the Israelis know if they start messing around, we're going to call a jihad, it's on. They probably would have said, okay, listen, Ahmed, we're not going to do this year, right? We talk about it next year. Because he couldn't come unless they gave him permission to come. So, y'all, you got to understand how they play the game. All right. Let's see. Kay is there. Salam, Brother Bilal. Walaikum salam wa barakatuh. What are your thoughts on the so-called snapback sanctions that have been put on Iran, and this will further drive stronger or weaker relations with Iran and neighboring nations? All right. Here's the deal. The snapback sanctions are basically the sanctions that the UN have put back onto Iran. They're called snapback because they were scripted in the 2015 agreement that basically stated wherein it would not need Security Council voting to put the sanctions back on Iran if Iran didn't live up to its contractual obligations. And therefore, it automatically snaps back. And that's why they call it snapback. My thoughts on it is this. I don't like the Iranian government. I never have. They have the blood of so many Syrians and so many throughout the Middle East. I don't like them jokers at all. Full stop. I felt that they had opportunities to really do good things for the Iranian people because to be honest with you, and when I was back in America, I knew a lot of Iranian people and I liked them. I thought that they were nice people. I thought they were cool. But my experience with the Iranian government being here in Syria, it ain't the same thing. Now, after having said all of that, the UN has got like energy to be worried about Iran, about what Iran might do, but they can't get anything done about what Israel is doing. They're worried about Iran might get a nuclear bomb, but nobody's worried about the Israelis and what they are currently doing. You got to figure that out whether you think that it's sincere or not. No, I wouldn't say sincere because there's sincere people in the UN, but the UN mechanism is broken. It's broken. And that's real. Next up, we've got Omar. He's here and he says, Daniel Hakika Joe is a sincere person who just doesn't have much knowledge about Syria and Iraq, so he's blatantly on any side. If you guys have any contact with him, I don't think I still have his number and all. If he says a lot of things about Syria, and maybe just say, why don't you give Bilal a call? He'd be happy to talk to you, and we could exchange information or something like that. Maybe I know some stuff he doesn't know. Maybe he knows some stuff that I don't know. But again, I can't really comment too much on it because I'm just not sure what he says. And Allah knows best. The Phenom says, Assalamu alaikum akhi Bilal, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do you still believe Ahmed Shara is an opportunist, or is he good for Syria? Have you revised your view at all? No. My view hasn't been revised at all. What has happened on the ground to encourage me to change my view? Why? Because he went to New York. A lot of folks go to New York. And he spoke at the UN. That doesn't mean anything to me. And it didn't do anything for the Syrian people. The sanctions were not lifted. There were very few people in the audience when he spoke. And there were a lot of side meetings which took place and everything like that. Maybe there are going to be some fruits and benefits that come out in the future time. But so far, we don't have anything to celebrate. I don't understand. I see a lot of Syrian people like, yay, the president, woohoo, and stuff like that. I bet, I get it. Bashar al-Assad is gone. I got that. But what are we celebrating exactly? The sanctions are still in place, but watch the way the sanctions are. Let me see if I've got anything here. This is a hammer. These are the sanctions. My hand is here, okay? Okay, this is the Syrian people. So instead of removing the hammer, what they've done is they've raised the hammer, they've raised the sanctions, but they keep it right here. And they say, you've got to come back to us every 180 days so that the Caesar laws that are still in place don't automatically, bang, down onto your hand. So, Ahmed Shara knows that. So there they are. And they know that a big part of keeping those sanctions up there are going to be your relations with Israel. And so it sits there. And it's like, so what are your plans regarding so and such and such and such a thing? You better come up with a fancy answer, because that hammer or sanctions is going to come smashing down on you. That's what I see. So, to answer your question, do I believe he's good for Syria on the real to real? This is the real deal. Nope, I don't. I really don't. Because joining the global collective, which seems to be that which is most important for him, that's not going to bring us the benefits we're looking for. Now, you got to be careful about something. You got to be careful. And this is going to get me in trouble. But this is what I have to say. Nelson Mandela said in an interview at one point, he said you have to be careful of a leader who changes his stances depending upon who he's talking to. You have to be careful of a leader who changes his stances depending upon who he's talking to, or as Nelson Mandela said. In this context, there's an interview, there was a clip that I saw just yesterday. I didn't see the whole interview with 60 Minutes. And the question for him was, the lady that was giving the interview said, we have spoken to a lot of different people, and everyone, those who support you and those who don't support you, all have said you are a changed man. Everybody, those who like you, those who don't like you, those who support you, those who are against you, they say you are a changed man. And I think it was, how do you respond to that? And then it cut off because, of course, they want to drum up interest for the interview, which I would like to see. So he didn't answer the question, or he did, it just wasn't aired as of yet. For years, he spoke about jihad and nothing but jihad. Even stated that we don't want to rule, we only want jihad. That's what was stated in the past. It was to the point where his group Jabhat al-Nusra was threatening to imprison women who wore flamboyant colors and clothes that were not Sharia compliant, and had to be talked down from executing that. That's like back in 2015, maybe 2016. I'm not sure, but it was some years ago. And then it morphed into encouraging some of the brothers inside of the group to trim their beards so that they don't look like extremists. But then they ended up growing their beards back a short time later. And then it went into a thing where they didn't want the muhajirin to be out in front of everybody and to be in the background. But they were recruiting muhajirin just a few years prior by doing YouTube videos with people whom I know personally. So all of these stances changed. And then it becomes a thing where we're against torture, and when there's no torture, and this is why we're carrying out this jihad. But then it's found that they're doing torture in their own prisons. And then, it's always been, okay, the muhajirin are a red line, and the muhajirin are a red line, and stuff like that and everything. Okay, up until now, the muhajirin still have no official documentation in the country. Do you guys know that if a muhajir wants to buy a SIM card for his telephone, a SIM card, he can't do it? He doesn't have an ID. How is it that so many of the muhajirin invested themselves for the sake of Allah, and they're just so sidelined like this? But it was said, oh yeah, well, the muhajirin are a red line, and so on and so forth. And up until now, we don't have anything concrete regarding them. All of these stances, and it was stated for years that America is the shaitan, and so on, America. Now you're doing kill operations with America. It was stated in the past by some of his top sharis that the government of the United Arab Emirates are kuffar. Abdul al-Sisi is a kafir, and so on and so forth. Whether they are or they aren't, that's not the topic. But it's all changed now. It's all new. So I'm saying, I'm concerned, because when you're dealing with a certain entity, a certain leader of a country, maybe he says, yo, we're going to go to the right. Everybody, let's go. And everybody says, ah. They sell their cars to get money so that they can support the government, so they can do this, they can do that, because we going to the right. That's what the president said. That's what we're going to do. We support him, and that's what we're going to do. And then you find, and you say, listen, baby, you know what I'm saying? We're going to have to cut back for the next couple of months because we're giving this money over to the government. That's going to be the government's money because they're going to handle it. And we with that. And she says, okay, I support you. Here, take my gold earrings and all. All right. But then you find just some months later, the president's sitting on the left. Hey, man, what you doing over there? What's going on? Oh, well, you know, the political winds have changed. Yeah? Like that? So I'm concerned because all the stances that we were bred on for 13, 14 years have all changed. Even non-Muslims are looking and saying, everybody says that you have changed. I don't know what we're doing, brothers and sisters. Anyway, look, we got to wrap this up, y'all. But guys, I really need for you to please take a look at our crowdfunding page. We really need you to do that. That's medina.com/voices of truth. medina.com/voices of truth. Take a look at it for you on Twitter. That's madinah.com/voices of truth. Please do take a look at it. We really need your help. Okay, we got to roll. Okay, we've got one last one that I think is probably worth mentioning here. Okay, all right. Omar says, Abu Muhammad keeps on using the word integration in respect to new governmental plans, but humans are not metal parts that can just be adjusted again. This is unprincipled, irresponsible plan. In respect to the SDF, do you agree with this? The SDF are not going to integrate with Damascus. In my opinion, they're not going to integrate. It would be good if they did, but that's not going to happen. And Allah knows best, and I'll tell you why. The Israelis are salivating at supporting the Kurdish militia forces. Why? Because they can act as a thorn and a proxy force against the government in Damascus and against the Turkish government in Ankara. They're right on the Turkish border. They fear the Turks because the Turks have the spirit to fight and the Turks have the tools to fight. So they need to keep the Turks off balance and guessing. And that means the SDF, YPG, Syrian Democratic Forces in northeastern Syria. Okay. Madloum Abdi, who is the leader of the Kurdish militia forces in the northeast, he watched and saw what happened in Suwayda, in the southern part of the country, and how the Israelis just took it. He's sitting there saying, man, we got a third of the country, or maybe a little bit less than that. We've got the war goodies from the days when we fought ISIS. The Israelis, cough, cough, the Americans are going to support us and keep us going. We want to have our own homeland and all. Why wouldn't we do business with the Israelis? Why not? What's the deterrent? And you think that he's going to dismantle his operation and join the Damascus when Damascus couldn't even hold on to Suwayda? For what? For what? What's in it for him? Nothing. And that's why I think that they're not going to join. Okay, guys, I got to roll. Jazakumullah khair. I'm going to catch up with you guys next time. I am Bilal Abdul Kareem. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.